Hi, I'm Joe Balogh, and you're not. Hall of Fame coach turned future Hall of Fame host. I've spent more time cutting nets than Jim Harbaugh spends cutting corners. So put some respect on it like the court at the arena did by taking on a legendary name. Because this is my show. And it's an all-new me in the new year. Season 2 of The Joe Show starts now. Deal with it. North Central Ohio has shown itself to be a hotbed for boys and girls college basketball prospects this season, with several players committed to play at the next level, having incredible years thus far. We'll be checking in with many of them throughout this season of The Joe Show, beginning tonight with an electric guard who can get by defenders in a flash. Willard senior Max Dawson is the top scorer in the 20-team Sandusky Bay Conference at over 25 points per game. He'll be playing for Coach John Allenwood and the Ashland University Eagles next winter, but is enjoying a 9-2 start to his final high school season. Let's tip off tonight's show by taking a trip around the arena with the sharpshooter known as Mad Max. We're here with Max Dawson of the Willard Crimson Flashes for our first edition of Around the Arena this year. Well, Max, you grew up here in Willard. You played here in Willard. Had a great career. What has playing for Willard High School meant to you?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing would be the community. We just have our home opener Saturday night, and we had a great crowd. A lot of alumni come back, which is super special for us. So I would say just playing for the community, it means a ton to me.
I think any basketball player has influences in their basketball career. Who's been the biggest influence in your basketball career?
Yeah, I would say Coach Benningfield and my dad. Those are the two, I would say, my two biggest influences.
So you played in one of the most legendary gyms in the state of Ohio. Coach Haas, one of the most successful coaches to ever coach in the state of Ohio. You followed some great players in Mike Little, Jimmy Langhurst, Nick Dials, Cooper Parrott.
Yeah.
What's it meant to play in this gym?
Yeah, well, just to hit on those players, I think it's awesome because all those guys I stay in touch with, and I think that's super special. I don't think a lot of schools have that. So that's super special for me to be able to every year talk to those guys. They're always checking in how we're doing. That's awesome. But then, yeah, to play in the Haas, I mean, we don't call it the gym, we call it the Haas because it's really special for us. With Coach Haas and stuff, so yeah, it's awesome.
Played a lot through your career, through your junior year. Now you're a senior. What have you done what area of your game do you think you've gotten better at as you approach your senior season?
Yeah, I would say this offseason my biggest thing was just working on becoming well-rounded. Last year it was kind of all pull-ups, left-handed shots, everything like that. I think I became more of a being able to finish my right over the shoulder, stuff like that in the offseason.
What do you enjoy most about playing basketball?
I would say just with my teammates, the bonding and the trust we build with each other, it lasts forever.
When not playing basketball, which probably is not a lot of time you don't play basketball, what's your favorite thing to do?
Golf, for sure golf.
Good?
Solid, solid.
Favorite athlete, pro or college?
Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods.
Favorite food, like pregame meal? What's your favorite go-to thing?
My pregame meal is oatmeal. Kind of a different one, but pregame meal is always oatmeal.
If it's not a pregame meal, what's your favorite food outside that?
Steak dinner. Steak dinner for sure.
Toughest player you've ever had to play against?
I'm gonna go with Mason Studer. I had to guard him when I guarded him a little bit as a freshman, as a sophomore, and tough guard.
You know, you're in your senior season, but you've had a lot of great memories here in playing for Willard High School. What's your favorite memory or the best thing right now that you can remember about your career so far?
I think last year, so far, I mean, I hope there's many more to come, but so far would be winning at home against Huron last year to win the Bay, that was just special, especially because we had such a tight group of guys, and we battled every night, and we weren't the biggest, but we were the toughest.
So, I mean, we're only in December. You played, I think, 2 games, 20 regular season games left, and then hopefully a tournament run. But when it's all over, what do you think you're going to miss the most?
I would say Coach B and Coach Hirsch, to be honest. I've been around those guys for a long time, and they're always challenging me, and I think I'll miss that the most.
All right. Max Dawson around the arena. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Max's Crimson Flashes dropped a really tough league game last night against defending Lake Division champion Sandusky by a final count of 66-64 in a tournament-like atmosphere at the Haas. Max would have another outstanding night, though, with a game-best 25 points. Now let's take a look at some of the other top individual performances from the past 7 days on this week's edition of Coach B's Ballers. Our first nominee for this week's Baller of the Week is Logan Toms of the Lucas Cubs. Logan continues his storied career for the Cubs, and the Cubs are off to another great start this season. He led the Cubs to a key win at Mansfield Christian as the Cubs went into the furnace to douse the Flames. Logan had a team-high 33 points as the Cubs took over first place in the MVC. Our number 2 nominee is Kylie Hess. Kylie scored 19 points as the Danville Lady Blue Devils took down the East Knox Bulldogs at the Dog Pound to stay atop of the K-Max standings. Our number 3 nominee is Judah Layton of the Loudonville Redbirds. Judah chewed up the Bulldogs by hitting a career-high 33 points to lead the Redbirds to an early season victory. Our number 4 nominee is Whitney Waddell of the Pleasant Lady Spartans. The Spartans went into Shelby and scored an upset victory over the Lady Whippets. Whitney knocked down 19 points in this key MOAC victory. Our number 5 nominee is Matthias Rayburn of the Waynedale Golden Bears. Matthias went off from long range, knocking down 8 threes in Waynedale's win over Hillsdale at the Falcons' Nest. Our number 6 nominee is Ella Profer. Ella stroked 4 threes and scored 21 points as the Blue Devils remained in first place in the K-Max standings by going into Mount Gilead and coming from behind to win this key game. Our number 7 nominee is Alex Brushgotter. Alex scored 53 points in the Shelby Whippets win at Ashland by knocking down an amazing 12 three-pointers. Alex now becomes scored the 4th most points in Shelby basketball history in this victory over the Arrows. Our number 8 nominee is Trevor Vogt of the Colonel Crawford Eagles. Trevor led the Eagles to a key victory over arch rival Winford as he scored a game-winning buzzer beater to knock off the Royals. And our number 9 nominee is Corey Vermilia. Corey scored her 2,000th point in her storied basketball career for the Lady Redbirds. She continues to lead the Redbirds to an outstanding season as they remain undefeated and are currently ranked 4th in the Division IV AP poll. Vote now in the comment section for this week's top baller of the week. We'll post these nominees for a fan vote tomorrow to determine which of my ballers had the best performance of the week. Coming up next, the great Effie James will join me in studio to discuss some hot topics from the sports world. More Joe Show will return in just a moment. Back here on the Joe Show, I'm joined now by former Mansfield senior boys basketball coach turned playwright / mogul. It's the mayor of Tigertown. Effie James is here to discuss a few hot topics of the world of sports. Brian, what's up for discussion first?
All right, thanks, Coach B. We're going to start with a tool in college sports now in its 5th year of existence that's starting to change the landscape of amateurism, if you will, in the sports world. The transfer portal no longer forces players to sit out one season if they leave from one D1 program to another. Some believe this change is improving the game for top-tier teams and athletes looking for better opportunities. Others feel it may be tainting the relationship between programs and their recruits. What the F, Mr. James?
You know, I don't know, man. I think I was always a proponent. I always believed in NIL before it was even brought in. I thought that the kids should be able to make money off their name, image, and likeness. So I was good with that. This portal thing, though, brought in a whole new element. You know what I mean? It created like free agency in college sports. And now, without them having to sit out, it's like coaches and now the colleges are like, hey, listen, I'm not paying them, so I'm clean. What do you want us to do? So now I don't like where it's headed, Coach. I don't like where it's headed, man. And I think we're headed towards a landscape that could be scary for college sports.
I mean, I think there's some good things with the transfer portal. I think, you know, if a player initially doesn't feel like there's a fit, or if a player goes somewhere, the coach leaves. I mean, I feel like, hey, they should have that one opportunity to transfer. But right now it seems like it's just kind of an open market, and it's basically, you know, if you're talking about the portal, you brought up the NIL, they're almost together because it actually is becoming pay to play.
Right.
And I think the really hard part is, you know, I know people complain about the amount of money that college coaches make nowadays, but I'm not really sure if I'd want to be in their shoes from the standpoint of your time, just because you have no time off. I mean, you know, if you take a look at a college football coach in the month of December, if you're playing in a bowl game or playing in the football playoffs, trying to get your team ready to play a game, you're recruiting high school kids. You're trying to keep your own guys, and then right. I'm sure you have somebody that's looking in the portal to see where guys are at, and it never ends. I don't think they can ever really take a day off. But, you know, on the other hand, if they get fired, they get a pretty good paycheck though too.
That point you made about keeping your own guys too, that's big, because that's part of your recruiting responsibilities now. So you got to recruit your own guys in addition to trying to find the best talent in the portal. And now ADs and school presidents are expecting you to find the best guys in the portal because now everybody else is.
And I think the other thing that goes unnoticed though with the portals, we talk a lot about the guys that get in the portal and go to another school. Yeah. But there's a boatload of guys that get in the portal that never go to another school. True. And they lose an opportunity to get a college education because they lose that scholarship. And I think that's one of the things that people really don't look at in the portal, that, you know, there's kids that are trying to take advantage of it, but they really lose by going into the portal.
30 for 30 coming, guaranteed.
Yes, yes, there is. So as far as the portal, I mean, this was another thing that was brought up. I listened to a podcast, and Jeff Van Gundy was on it and was a college coach doing the podcast, and he asked about how would he coach with this portal now, and he basically stated, I wouldn't change any way I coach at all. He said, because he said, not only are the players that aren't playing leaving, he said, but you got players that are averaging 15, 20 a game on your team are going to leave. So he said, why would you coach any different? Because his emphasis was, you know, probably like much of ours was when you're coaching, you're looking to find those 7 or 8 guys that you're going to play a lot. Right. And the other guys are just going to have to find their way into that. And the college coach's comment was, well, do you have to kind of cater to them? And his answer was no. And I guess kind of as you look at that, that's kind of the way it's got to be now.
I agree.
All right, gentlemen. Michigan just claimed the final college football national championship, featuring a playoff bracket with just 4 teams. Beginning next year, the field for the college football playoff will triple in size to include 12 teams competing for the title. Is this the right move for the NCAA? What the F?
You know, I think it's the right move. I think expansion is good. There's always going to be an argument. You know what I mean? I think there's always going to be, you know, whether it's 12, 112, that 13th or 113th team is going to be like, what about us? So, but I think expansion and playing your way to the championship, to me, is always the best way. And as long as there are a group of people making a decision on who's the best team, there's always going to be a chance for the actual best team to be left out. I was sad for Florida State this year. Now, that doesn't mean that I thought they were one of the 4 best, because I didn't. But I was sad for their story because I think they deserved to be in. But because they played their way in. But the truth of the matter is, with expansion, those type of stories, to some degree, won't matter anymore.
They're going to be minimized.
Absolutely.
Those stories are going to be
so
minimized.
I like the idea of expansion, and to me, the closer we get, and I know it's hard in football, but the closer we get to March Madness in football, I know we can't get there, but the closer we get to March Madness in football, the better for college football.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I agree. I think expansions is a good thing. But I guess looking at the other side of it, the concern would be, you know, the number of games that those guys are going to play
absolutely.
now. I mean, but here's the, you know, if we take a look at that, you know, now in Ohio high school football, the 2 teams in the state championship game are playing 16 games.
That's right.
And the difference with those guys is they have no weeks off.
Right.
You know, I think next year in college football, most teams are going to have 2 bye weeks, which that's going to be a difference. But you know, money runs everything, and I think the NCAA is going to look at this as this is going to be a money maker. But it will be interesting from the standpoint that first round of games, when teams get the higher seed gets to host. I think it'd be pretty cool to see a game being played in Columbus, Ohio, at Ohio Stadium.
That would be nice.
Of course, Ohio people probably could complain because they wouldn't be one of the top 4 seeds, but I think that would be a great atmosphere for college football. You know, whether it's college football, whether it's professional football seems to be the thing that carries now, and I don't think people are ever going to get enough of it.
The idea of playing your way in just resonates with people, you know, and like somebody said, the blueprint is already set. The NFL, the playoff system is already there. We just got to get away from this. I don't want to say the idea of amateurism is a farce, but we're getting there with our high-level football. You know what I mean? We got to get away from that, but we got to go ahead and get into the playoff system, a better playoff system, so we can find out the real champion in our college football. I think fans and our schools deserve that.
And have a scenario that Ohio State plays Michigan last game of the year, plays them in the Big Ten championship, and then down the road plays them in the playoffs, playing them three times in probably 6 weeks.
The rubber match.
That would be unbelievable.
I think both fan bases are going to sign up for that anytime. All right, let's take it from the gridiron back onto the hardwood, where both of you guys well known during your coaching careers for your staunch man-to-man pressure defense, while others, especially I'd say in the girls' game, will run predominantly zone defenses. So what the F is up with implementing either strategy as your go-to, Mr. James?
You know, I thought that I've always felt like, you know, man-to-man, you couldn't be a good zone team unless you had good man-to-man principles. And I didn't feel like you could be a good zone team unless you committed to it. So a lot of teams I felt like played zone, but then try to mix in and play man. And we committed to playing man-to-man because I felt like it was best for our program. And when I watch teams try to flip-flop and do one or the other, I have yet to see a team that, as a coach, put fear in me in both their man defense and the equal amount of fear in their zone defense. You're either good at one or the other. So I don't have a problem with one or the other. But I feel like you do have to commit to one or the other. And if you're going to be a zone team, commit to it, but you still got to have good man-to-man principles. But I feel like you can be good at one or the other, but I don't feel like you can be good at both.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, I grew up in the Bob Knight coaching era, so, and then I played. I didn't really play. I went to school at Ohio Northern and played for a guy named Gail Doherty who had coached with Bob Knight at Army. So that experience kind of put me that, hey, I was going to be a man-to-man guy. But I think the key word you used, Effie, was commitment. Yeah. I think as a coach, you gotta have something, whether it's offense, in this case we're talking defense, but this is what we're going to hang our hat on. Right. And for you and for me both, we were going to hang our hat on that. Hey, we were going to be a man-to-man team. Right. But we both played against teams that have been committed to being really good zone teams. Right. And I think that the thing that's hard if you have a team that's committed to playing zone, many times if you're preparing for that team, it takes more preparation because you typically don't have as much in against a zone as you do against the man-to-man. And I remember late in my coaching career, we played Plymouth when they had Brooke Turson. In fact, we played them, I think, in the districts at Mansfield Senior. And, we had a whole week to prepare, and we had zone stuff in, and we played them, and we looked like we had never seen a zone before. And the thing I remember is after the game, as we have our end of the season discussion, one of my assistants, Carl Schnittke, said, he said, Joe, he goes, we've got really good zone stuff we do. He goes, but the problem is, he goes, this week was like the first time that we've really ever had to use it. Right. So one of the things as a coach that we started committing was every week we had one day that was kind of a zone day. Right. That we worked a little bit on a zone as a changeup for us, but more importantly, we tried to work against the zone offense, so that if we came into one, that it wasn't such a surprise to our kids.
Absolutely. We've seen some. I remember playing Warren Harding. They were the most athletic, longest team. We prepared all week because we knew they were going to play us man and they were going to give us fits all over the court. They come back and sit in a big 1-3-1 zone all game, and we couldn't move the ball. And I'm thinking to myself, and they were committed to it though, and they were good at it, and it worked for them. So there have been some teams that have been great zone teams.
And I think you bring up a good point too. Is I don't think we're both sitting here and saying, hey, we're just going to be man-to-man. Right. But I think you see good teams that might be a really good man-to-man team, but they have that little wrench in there that they might throw in a 1-3-1, and it's coming, but they're really good at it for those few possessions. Right. So I guess from my standpoint, I'm a man-to-man guy, but I held nothing against people that want to teach zone either.
No, they've given me headaches over the years for sure.
One more topic for you guys. I feel like the term off-season for high school athletes and coaches, it's becoming a very blurred line. I mean, there's out-of-season workouts, open gyms, club teams, AAU, you name it, all the other activities. So specializing in a specific sport, it's easier than ever now. However, statistics will prove that the vast majority of D1 college athletes participate in at least 2 different sports in high school. So what the F should a top prospect do trying to get a college scholarship?
The thing that worries me about the multi-sport athlete and athletes in general is that the majority of our athletes are not going to get a scholarship. And so the kids that I work with and that I see, when it is our responsibility as educators first to not discourage them from doing anything, but to be reasonable and understand, look, you can't spend all of your time in the gym, or you can't spend all of your time in the weight room. You can't spend all of your time doing that because, number one, winners win. And I wanted my kids to compete. So the kids that I coached in football or basketball, look, I just want you to compete. I don't care if you're running cross country or whatever it is. I felt like kids would be better competing than not competing. Not because it would get them a scholarship, not because it would make them, a better athlete, but because it would make them a better competitor. And I thought for them being a better competitor, it would make them, a better basketball player, football player, and they would enjoy their experience. To me, scholarships, I don't know how much that has to do with it. I just think it makes them a better competitor. So multi-sport athletes, to me, I always support. The kids that I see really being pushed to say, hey, I'm just going to focus on one sport, especially the young ones. That really gets to me. I get concerned about that because you get singled into one sport, and not if that one does. Even if you do well, chances are it is so hard. It's so hard to get a basketball scholarship. Number one, it's so hard to get a scholarship. You got to be great, and if you don't compete and give yourself an opportunity in other sports, you're just limiting your opportunities to me.
I mean, I think you bring up a really valid point towards the end there was the young.
Yeah.
We've got kids that are choosing, you know, at a 5th, 6th grade level, junior high level, that, hey, this is going to be my sport. And I don't think you can do that, because we've all seen kids at the junior high level that might be outstanding in basketball or even outstanding in football, just because they're much more mature than everybody else. And then by the time they become a junior or senior, people have caught up in the game has changed a lot. So that's the one thing I think as a young kid, if a kid wants to play a sport, you need to encourage them to play as many different things as you can.
Absolutely.
I think maybe, you know, as you get to that sophomore, junior year in high school, if people are telling you that you're an elite basketball player, then maybe you can make that decision. But I think all of us as coaches, you know, we love to have athletes in our program. They may not be the best basketball players, but if you got athletes, everybody's got to have a role, and that athlete can play a role. And the other part is what you said, the idea of competing and then being part of a team.
Yeah.
I mean, being part of a football team is different than being part of a basketball team.
Right.
Or being a golfer or a cross-country runner. That's a different level of competition. So I think the other part, though, as coaches, we need to also understand that, because especially as the summer comes around, there's so many demands put on kids that, hey, you're supposed to be here. But I think as we take a look at that multi-sport athlete, coaches need to have that conversation as, hey, can I have him for these couple of days? And you're going to get him. We need to be understanding of that part of it, too.
We got to do a better job of that. That's a great point.
All right, guys. Awesome debates. Effie, always great to have you here in studio.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Coach.
Thanks, Effie. Thanks for coming in.
Some of the top multi-sport athletes in our area have proven that they can do some absolutely ridiculous things on the basketball floor, and that was certainly the case over the last 7 days. So let's take a look at the top cuts from this past week, the top 10 best plays captured by our cameras. Here come your top cuts, the 10 best plays of the week captured by our cameras, all presented by Buckeye Horizon. We've got first place in the KMAC on the line at number 10, and it's a freshman. Sealing the deal as Cardington's Jill Berkey jumps the passing lane and runs out the clock to the other end of the floor, giving the Pirates a monster win over the defending league champs on the reservation. Next up is Waynedale's Matthias Raber. You're going to see him throw a pair of gnarly jab steps right in the face of the defender before eventually launching a three. It's on target plus the harm, which he would cap off for an impressive 4-point play. Let's hit the gas pedal at number 8, where Kylie Hess is going to Euro step her way through a pack of dogs and throws up the left-handed scoop right through the bottom. As we slow it down a bit, you see the superior footwork and finishing ability as Danville knocks off their rivals on the road. It was the Trey Booker show in the Battle of Marion, and check out the series of moves he throws down in front of the home fans at Pleasant. I mean, just ridiculous. Watch it again as he gets by a double team, spins into a third defender, and still has the hang time to fill it up for a crazy deuce. We're closing out the quarter in style at play number 6. Catch and release at the horn for Shelby's Eve Schwemley tickles the nylon. Observe the perfect form despite the short time situation to end the opening frame with a splash. Top half of our countdown comes at you with a rude greeting. Dublin Scioto's Aaron Foster giving up 5 inches, but no points in this matchup as he spikes Trent Miner's shot attempt off the planks with authority. Less than 20 seconds left on the clock to start top cut number 4. Upper Sandusky has the ball, down by 1 against N10 leader Carey. The Lady Rams gonna get the ball in bounds. Eventually, they're gonna get the pill into the hands of Grace Walton. She's gonna give it up off the attack to sharpshooter Addie Newman, and she, along with the rowdy student section, like the downtown view. Game winner for Newman and company, who take the game by 2. Alex Bruscotter already has 11 triples in this game at Ashland at this point, but hits the around the back breaks and drills a school record 12th during a blowout win for Shelby, where the senior went off for a career best 53 points, capped off by this exclamation point. More milestones on the way at play number 2. There's only one active player in the state of Ohio with 2,000 career points, and it's this lady right here following that specific bucket. Loudonville's Corey Vermilia puts herself in the history books as one of the all-time leading scorers from the Buckeye State, keeping her team undefeated as well with a big win over Clear Fork. Pretty impressive stuff, but our top cut of the week shines the spotlight right on Colonel Crawford's Trevor Vogt. Closing seconds of their bitter rivalry against Winford, he comes up with the steal, hits the turbo button just before the final buzzer. Vogt sinks the game-winning runner to stun the Royals, who had led the entire game. But a little magic at the Eagles' nest leads to our number 1 play of the week and a well-deserved doggy pile for Trevor and the boys in North Robinson. All right, coming up after a short commercial break, we'll take a look at Travis Berardi's first edition of Country Roads Rankings. Plus, Joe checks in with the Northern 10 leading Colonel Crawford girls basketball team, and he's going to break down some film from Alex Bruscotter's record-setting scoring night at Ashland and Marion Harding's on-court strategy that helped them knock off Pleasant. That's all next.
The Northern 10 standings are pretty cramped near the top of the league, but only one team sits at the apex, with the Colonel Crawford Lady Eagles claiming that perch at the midpoint of the season. I had a chance to visit North Robinson to see Zac Bauer's bunch in action. Let's take you inside the Eagles' nest now for a look at the N10 leaders. We're here with Coach Zac Bauer, the Colonel Crawford Lady Eagles. One of the segments we like to do, Coach, is just kind of let people get to know coaches in the area. I think that's one of the things, a lot of times fans just see you out on the floor and they don't really get to know you, or they get an impression of you that maybe is not always true. So remembered you a while back. You were a player at Winford, a really good player. But maybe give our viewers a little bit about your background as far as how you got started in coaching and kind of that journey to how you became the girls coach here at Colonel Crawford.
Well, I started out of college. I was the varsity assistant at Winford for Tim Ayersman, and I was a varsity assistant there for 3 years, and then a JV coach there for 6 years, and that's kind of how I got my start with Coach Ayersman, who I was fortunate enough to play for after Coach Sheldon retired from Winford. I was looking for some coaching experience, and Coach Hershey just happened to leave Winford for Willard, and there was a spot there, so I got my feet wet under Coach Ayersman and Coach Rowlandson. Lee Rowlandson was a big coaching mentor of mine. Mike Haynes, I worked with for a while, helped kind of mold me there, and then I got a teaching job here at Colonel Crawford and talked with Coach Sheldon here, and was the freshman coach here for 9 years. 1 year there, and that 9 was a 7th grade coach. We didn't have a freshman team, so I've done a little bit of every level. And then when our girls position opened, with having 2 daughters of my own, I thought, I've been provided with was provided when I was a player with a program that was so supportive. It was family-like. And, I was fortunate enough to have a second family, and as a kid growing up. And I, probably listened to Coach Sheldon better than I listened to my own parents, which I'm sure that they probably can attest to. And if that's something that I can provide for the girls at Crawford now, or establish for my own 2 children, if I'm fortunate enough to be here long enough to coach them, then that serves its purpose, and I'm doing the job that I set out to do.
All of us, I think, as we get into coaching, whether, whatever level we start at, we kind of come in with the philosophy of like how we would like our team to play when we get our own team. So you have your own team now. This is your second year. So if I said, what's your coaching philosophy? What would you kind of, point out that this is what represents Colonel Crawford Lady Eagle basketball?
Our program slogan is "I am, we are," and that's based on the concept of being the best version of yourself and being as complete as you can to best serve the group. And if that means working on your skills in the off season, if it means being a good shooter, if that means being a complete basketball player, then that's what that means. And on the other front of that is let the team serve you. If you're the best person and best player you could be for the team, then that's going to lead to team success. And if you have team success, that maybe lead to individual accolades, and winning basketball leads to good basketball players and vice versa. So we want to be as complete as we can on both ends of the floor, and we want to be as successful as we can as a team for the individuals.
And usually, besides your philosophy, there's people that have maybe had a big influence on your coaching career, or maybe coach, like when I was growing up, Bob Knight was a guy that, I tried to go to clinics, watch his stuff, and then, of course, along the way, learn from a lot of other coaches. Who would you say have kind of been influences in your coaching career?
I was very fortunate to grow up around good coaches. My grandfather, Jim Bauer, was Winford's first boys coach, and I got a lot of input from him as a kid growing up. I was fortunate enough to play for Coach Sheldon at Winford. I was fortunate enough to play for and work with Tim Ayersman and Lee Rowlandson. I worked with Steve Moore for a year. We've gotten to know each other well, Coach Balogh, and I've gotten to work with you and Coach Hennig some at camps, Coach Sheldon, Hill, here at Crawford, Coach Capel. And then, you talked about Bob Knight. You see guys like Jay Wright. You see guys like Mike Neighbors at Arkansas. Yep. Mike McDaniel, the Dolphins head coach. Yep. I really like him and his philosophies and the way he treats his team. I like Dan Campbell. He's hard-nosed. Those are some guys that stand out to me, but I've been fortunate enough to know the people personally who have helped kind of shape me into who I am and put me in the position that I am today.
What's your favorite part about coaching high school girls?
It's like Mira kind of said, it's the camaraderie. It's how well our team pays attention when we talk to them in practice, the questions that they ask, how they're intellectually engaged. And I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but it's nice to see and hear the follow-up questions they ask as far as why are we doing this, or if we tell them why we're doing something, they want to know. They aren't doing it just to do it. They need the why, and that helps to build a rapport with the players, and that's fun for me.
Flip it 180 degrees. What's the least favorite part of coaching?
The busyness. I'm kind of a laid-back guy, and when you have to go 6, 7 nights a week and go hard, and it wears on you. And something that I've tried to adjust to myself is like self-care this season. Get my rest, make sure that I'm taken care of, because if I'm not my best coming into practice, then I can't lead the team as best and most effectively as I want to.
We mentioned, you got off to 11-0 start, suffered a tough loss the other night. But looking at this team this year, what do you really like about this basketball team?
I like our resiliency, and I like our willingness to go hard in the face of adversity. And we haven't faced a lot of that, on a larger scale as far as wins and losses. But when we sat with the players at the beginning of the year and we talked to them about their goals, every player that on our roster said we want to be a high-level team, and that's something that we push them to. If you're going to be a high-level team, then you're going to have to rise in the face of adversity. You have to push yourself mentally and physically every day, and that's something that's really impressed me about our team.
Well, it was a joy getting to watch you practice tonight, and we wish you the best of luck the rest of the year.
It's an honor to have you in practice, Coach B.
Thanks. The Lady Eagles scored a 41-34 bounce-back win last night at Mohawk, following their only loss of the season to Winford, improving to 12-1 overall and 6-1 in the N10. But where do they rank among the small schools in the area? Let's welcome in Travis Berardi right now to break down his first edition of Country Roads Rankings.
This is Big Leagues Country Roads Rankings. Yoo-hoo! Thanks, Joe, as always, for welcoming on to the Joe Show. Had a blast with you last season, so we had to bring the Country Roads rankings back here exclusively on the Joe Show. This year we're changing it up a little bit. We're going to do our top 5 for girls and boys, and as always, ladies first, so let's get right into it, Joe. My top 5 girls basketball teams, and there's a lot of teams that are still kind of jumbled up in my top 5, from 5 to 10, I'd say. But these are my top 5 for now. At number 5, the Danville Lady Devils. You saw last night live and free their comeback victory over Mount Gilead. They are 11-3. Their losses, a very good Norwayne squad out of the WCAL. They lost by 3 to Mount Gilead. That's their lone conference loss earlier this year. And they also lost to a really good Johnstown Monroe squad, but they have been hot as of late. So they are my number 5 team, and they take on Centerburg on Friday, another team that's atop the KMAX standing. It's them, it's Cardington, and it's Centerburg, so that's a big win for them. If they can get that, maybe they'll move up my rankings. At number 4, the Crawford Lady Eagles, a team that you and I saw earlier this week with Coach. They're a really good squad, but I have them at number 4 because the number 3 team just knocked them off. Their lone loss this year is to Winford by 19 points, kind of a head scratcher, but you know as always, you have an off night, you just have to bounce back. They have a chance to go against an upper squad on Saturday that knocked off Cary, who was at the top of the standings. They won that game last night at the buzzer, so it should be a good way for them to bounce back if they can get a win. At number 3 is the Winford Lady Royals. They're 10-2. They have one more loss than Colonel Crawford, but they had that very impressive victory against the Eagles. Their losses are to Cary by 7 and the Mohawk by 7. 2 good teams, as always, in a stacked Northern 10 this year on the girls' side. So they are the number 3 team. They play Buckeye Central on Saturday. I know Buckeye Central doesn't have any wins in conference, but they're a scrappy squad, and they'll play it tough, so they can't overlook them. My number 2 squad, the Pleasant Lady Spartans. Whitney Waddell, who's up for Baller of the Week. She's leading that squad. They're 12-1. Their lone loss is a really good Clear Fork squad. So they lost to them by 9, but other than that, they knocked off Shelby, a very good win for them on the road. They have a chance to continue that. They play Highland tomorrow in conference play, and everybody knows who the number 1 team should be. It is the number 4 team in all of Division 4. It is the Loudonville Lady Redbirds. Their closest win is 24 points at Clear Fork. Have you ever seen a squad that has just steamrolled teams like this in North Central Ohio, Joe?
No, not really. I mean, they have one of, maybe a Miss Basketball candidate in Cora
Absolutely.
Vermillion. She's had an outstanding career. And then the scary part is I think she has a sister that's a freshman that's averaging about
Maya.
15 a game. So they've been outstanding. But the interesting thing is I think Coach Bates has done a good job. He's really trying to challenge him because he's got a couple games coming up here that might be a little bit different than what they've been able to play in the league. So, but to be winning by 20 plus points, really can't argue with how good that team is.
Yeah, and later tonight we will have a highlight of their game at Wellington, which is going on, right about now. So, it might have been finished up right now because, they get running clocks every game. But they're looking to go 15-0. You have a highlight later tonight right here on the OH Report. But that's my top 5. Loudonville 1, Pleasant 2, Winford 3, Crawford 4, Danville 5. Anything that I messed up there?
No, I don't think you did. I mean, I think, you take a look at that Northern 10. That's going to be really competitive, especially in the second half. Crawford, a big win for Winford as they went on the road at
Young
Crawford
squad, too.
And just dominated. And you're right. Their 2 key players are 2 freshmen. But the interesting thing, what I've always said I like about leagues around here is you play that round robin. Crawford's going to have another chance to get after Winford here in the second half of the year. So over the next 3 or 4 weeks, that N10 is going to be an interesting race on the girls' side.
And isn't it fun to see a kid named Sheldon dominate as a freshman at Winford for her mom with her dad watching the stands? It's pretty cool story for them. But it's good to see Winford back and playing some good ball, and the boys' side as well. And let's get right into my top 5, Joe. Number 5, some people are going to be thinking, why number 5? But the Lucas Cubs, 8-1. Their lone loss is to a Galleon squad by 20. Kind of a little bit of a head scratcher, but Galleon Division II.
But I think
Lucas up there at 4.
Logan Toms might have got hurt in that game though too.
As well. So you have
so that's a key loss. But give Galleon credit. Galleon's having a good season.
Yeah, they stuck. They only lost by 10 to Lexington, which was a really good game for them, even though that they lost. But another big chance for Lucas to move up my rankings. They're at Crawford on Saturday, and Crawford, they're playing really good basketball, despite some people thinking they weren't going to have a good season. I mean, come on. It's a David Sheldon coach team. He gets his guys to play physically hard, and they're one of the most physical teams.
Well,
in the state.
I think they have that slogan, winning is an attitude. And,
yeah.
That program really embraces that whole attitude.
Well, they would have been my number 14, but Trevor Vogt boosted them up with a buzzer beater over my number 4 team. That was Winford. What a game. We had one kid on one side hit 6 threes. We had a kid on the other side hit 6 threes. You had Trevor Vogt do his thing. It was a great game to be at. Their losses, they're at 9-2. They lost to Cary by 7 points, and then they lost to Crawford by 2 points. They go against Seneca East, a team that's right on the outside looking in my top 5. They play them on Friday in another stacked Northern 10 conference.
If you look at that Winford team, I mean, Ontario, we were in the NCC with Winford for a lot of years, and I have not seen Winford play for a while, but that team reminds me of some of the teams that we played in the NCC. They are as athletic as any team in this area. They're going to make some noise in the league in the second half, and it could be a team that is going to make a lot of noise come tournament time.
Brian and I saw them against Upper Sandusky earlier this year. They are a complete squad. But they dropped the 4 because my number 3 team is the Fighting David Sheldons, the Colonel Crawford Eagles, with that buzzer beater victory. They have another quality victory over Northmore earlier this year. They lost a tough one at Cary, and then they lost to Seneca East for the first time in 20 tries. But Seneca East they're having a really good season as it is themselves. They're 8-3. Crestview also, they lost at the buzzer at home. So those aren't bad losses for them.
And the thing with Crawford is they're not going to blow anybody out probably, but nobody's really going to blow them out. So when you play Crawford, you're going to be in a fight for 32 minutes, and that's really what they've shown here early in the season.
And they have Mohawk on Friday, and like I said, you can't take any days off in the Northern 10 as always. My number 2 team, another team in the Northern 10, a squad that has beaten Crawford and Winford the first time around, and that is the Cary Blue Devils. Their losses, Old Fort, Willard, and Bluffton. So, you can't, there's no head scratchers there. Those are really good teams they played against, but they were competitive in all 3 games.
And I think they have one of their best players that's been out that hopefully is going to get back. I think had a foot injury that's been out, but Coach Young there has done a great job. They were really good last year, return a bunch this year. So again, much similar to the girls. The N10, as you get to the second half, is going to be really, really interesting.
And they are at Upper Sandusky on Friday, and Upper, they're starting to get their feet under them as well. So you can't mark that off as a win already, because that's going to be a battle. And then my number 1 team, they've been number 1 since the beginning of last year. They haven't lost a regular season game since the beginning of last year. That's the Crestview Cougars, last year's Country Roads champions. They are still on top. They have a big one tomorrow night. You can watch it live and free on the OH Report for first place in the Firelands against another team that's just sitting on the outside looking in. That is St. Paul, 7-1. Firelands Conference, it's down this year, but there are 2 solid teams, Crestview and St. Paul. But the Cougars, they already have some big wins. They won at the buzzer at Crawford. They beat a really good Mansfield Christian team as well earlier this season. That is why they're still number 1.
Yeah, Coach Kurtz has done a great job there. And coming into the season, everybody said they were going to be good. And they really haven't fallen off at all. They've just continued to build on what they had last year. And I'm sure they're looking at number 1 to win the league, and then trying to take another step in that tournament run at the end of the season.
Any objections to any of my 5 there?
I think you're good, Travis. All right, there's no arguments here the first week of Country Roads rankings.
Joe Balogh approves. Some teams on the outside looking in. St. Paul's a chance to jump in there. Cardington Lincoln, a big win over Northmore. Northmore as well. Seneca East as well. Those are teams that have a chance to maybe get into my top 5. Also, real quick, I didn't do the rankings for football. I had some other things, but congratulations to the Danville Blue Devils. They're the Country Roads rankings football champions, went undefeated, went to a regional semifinal there, so congratulations to them. We'll be back in 2 weeks for the Country Roads rankings, because next week I'll be back here with Joe for the first edition of our stat leaders. But Joe, as always, I'm happy to be back with you this year.
Always good to be back with you, Travis. Throughout the season, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look. We have some outstanding coaches in North Central Ohio. So week to week, we're going to try to pick out some clips and just kind of show you some actions that coaches run that are really, really good. So the first action that we have here, this is Marion Harding versus Marion Pleasant in a key game here just in the past few weeks. And this is Marion Harding's 4-out, 1-in motion. So you can see they've got 4 perimeter players and they got a post guy that's going inside. So the first action out of this is the point guard makes a wing entry, and you can see that the point guard is going to clear and go opposite. But the good thing right now that coaches like to see is we like to see the ball get reversed because it makes the defense move. So you're going to see a quick ball reversal here by Marion Harding. The ball goes to the top all the way to the wing. And again, you can see as the player makes a pass from the top to below, he's going to cut through. Now you can see the post players starting to move. So he's coming up and he's going to get an entry at the elbow, and the wing player is going to make a cut off of this post guy for, in this case, they fake the handoff. As he clears this area, you can see we're getting movement by all 5 players. So now the post player makes a pass to the point guard who had cut through to the opposite wing. And now we're going to get ball screen action. All right, so the post player is setting a high ball screen for the point guard. The defense goes under, all right, and the point guard does a good job of backing it out to look inside to his post teammate. So the ball gets fed to the post, all right? So the scouting report for Pleasant must have said that if the ball goes to the post, we're going to double off of this passer. So the post player looks to make a post move, reads the double, and sees he gets doubled. He makes an immediate kickback to the point guard who is shot ready, which leads to an open 3. Now the good thing with this whole clip is this. If you take a look, all 5 players had the opportunity that they were able to touch the ball. The ball went from one side of the court to the other. You made Marion Pleasant's defense defend a variety of different actions, which led to a great look and a great 3 by the Pleasant point guard. In this next sequence, what we're going to see is we're going to see Marion Harding on defense. So you can see that Harding's in man-to-man. They're picking up the ball handler in the full court. Not a lot of pressure, but trying to get a little bit of pressure on the basketball. Pleasant now is going to set a high ball screen, okay? I'm assuming number 1's probably a post player. And apparently in Marion Harding's scouting report, they've decided if they see this high ball screen, they're going to double this high ball screen. So as 5 comes off of this high ball, all right, so they double the ball screen. All right, so a couple things happening defensively here. First of all, they're trying to deny the easiest pass, which would be the pass to the wing. You can see from the backside, all right, this guy right here was guarding 4. He's rotating to try to take away the middle. These 2 trappers have done a really good job because they forced this player to turn his back, which is something you really don't want to do. And now the other thing is they do a really good job of getting big in the trap. Hands are very high, all right? The point guard tries to make the pass through their hands. He's unable to do it. They get a deflection, and in this case, a steal. Now, one of the important things from this standpoint is they're doing a great job of attacking in transition, but you also give the point guard from Pleasant a lot of credit is that he didn't quit on the play. He did not stop playing after he turned it over. He does a great job of sprinting back and running through the offensive player to make that a tough layup opportunity. I'm not sure if there was a foul called here or not, but that was not an easy layup for that player to make. Okay, let's take a look at that high ball screen action that Pleasant tried to run and that Marion Harding trapped. So you have a post guy coming here to set a high ball screen on one's defender. One has the basketball in his hand. So one comes off this ball screen, and immediately four's defender is going to look to trap it, and one's defender's fought over top of the screen, and he's going to trap it. So the first thing that Harding's trying to do is they want to take away the easiest pass. So they're going to deny this pass right here because this is the way he's dribbling. Now, I think as we mentioned in the clip, the one mistake that the Pleasant ball handler makes is he turned his back with his dribble. So he really has no options to see the floor, because four, once he's set the ball screen, he is rolling. All right? And Harding's defense is telling the furthest guy away, which was the defender guarding three, he immediately is rotating to take this pass away. All right? So how would Pleasant solve this problem? Okay, well, first of all, this point guard, if he's going to back up dribble, he needs to back his dribble up and not turn his back. Or he needs to just simply pick the basketball up and initially be strong with it. So what we told our players as we coached, this was our rule anytime we got trapped, was we said, hey, we got to rescue the basketball. So immediately we're telling guys that, hey, the first look you're going to look is you're looking sideline. So if he looked here, he's going to see that this is taken away. His second look is middle. All right? So three is rotated to take away that middle. The third look, okay, is ball reversal, which means that this three man in the corner, he's not going to be doing anything by standing in the corner. He needed to try to come up so that we could possibly reverse the basketball. All right? And then the final thing we would tell this guy is this. If you have nothing else to do, one, all right, be strong enough that you got a 5 count, because that's at what we call a dead ball turnover. All right? Or the last thing we said to do was simply look to the backside, jump in the air, and try to throw the ball to the backside of the rim. All right? The worst thing that can happen is the basketball goes out of bounds. The best thing that happens is we always try to make sure we had somebody there, because with defenses rotating, okay, many times the backside is the guy that's going to be open. That's how we try to solve it. So usually we got in a trap situation, if we turned it over, we would talk to the guy that turned it over. Well, did you look sideline? Did you look middle? Did you look ball reversal? And then what's the last thing you do? And they would say, Coach, we got to throw it the deep diagonal. But you saw in the clip, Harding did a great job of getting this guy to turn his back, those two guys being in a great trap, taking away the initial 2 looks, turned it into a turnover, and got a basket at the other end of the floor. It's the OG JB signing out for episode 1 of The Joe Show.